The science station floated quietly above the red clouds of planet Avar 6. It was a shared outpost. Both humans and K'vari worked together there. The K'vari were tall, silver-skinned beings with sharp features and golden eyes. Their minds were logical, their society proud and powerful. Most of them saw humans as primitive, emotional, and strange. Torn was one of the few humans stationed at Avar 6. He was not a soldier or a captain. He was just a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. Torn was quiet, polite, and always focused on his research. That morning, Torn was working in Lab Hall 3, checking DNA samples from a desert insect. When the doors slid open, a group of K'vari entered. At the front was Velra, one of the top science officers. She was respected among her people, smart, serious, and confident. She glanced at Torn, then smirked. Still playing with bugs, human, Torn looked up, calm as always. They're interesting. Even the smallest creatures have something to teach us. Velra folded her arms. That's what humans always say. You find meaning in everything. Emotions, dreams, even mating. The other K'vari behind her chuckled. One of them whispered, I heard humans kiss before mating. Like animals. Velra raised an eyebrow and continued. You humans make such a big deal of your physical bonding. You light candles. You whisper soft words. What is it you say again? I love you. It sounds silly. Torn didn't react. He had heard worse before. Still, he looked at Velra and replied simply. It may sound silly to you, but to us, connection matters. Velra smiled in a mocking way. Connection, between bodies, perhaps. But your kind brings emotion into everything. That's not science. That's weakness. Torn stepped away from his station and stood straight. Respect is not weakness, and not everything can be explained by logic alone. There was a moment of silence. Even the other K'vari seemed surprised by his calm confidence. Velra tilted her head slightly. Interesting. You don't get angry. I don't need to, he answered. That made her pause. Later that day, in the shared dining hall, Velra sat across from her fellow K'vari scientists. I don't understand that human, Velra said, chewing on a protein stick. He doesn't react the way others do. Zin looked serious. He's strange, too calm, too soft. He challenged my thoughts without raising his voice. That's unusual. Zin leaned closer. You're not interested in him, are you? Velra scoffed. Please. He's a human. Their kind depends too much on feelings. Their mating practices are based on emotion, not efficiency. Still, her mind wandered. She remembered the way Torn had looked at her. Not with fear, not with hate, but with honesty. Maybe I should study him, she said at last. Zin raised an eyebrow. Study? As a subject, for comparison, Velra said quickly. To understand how human minds work during bonding. From a scientific point of view, Zin chuckled. You're serious? Velra nodded. I'll test his reactions, observe his behavior. It will prove my point. Human bonding is strange and unnecessary. The next day, Velra walked into Torn's lab again. He was surprised to see her alone. I've decided to accept your challenge, she said. What challenge? Torn asked, confused. You said, emotional connection matters. I want to test that. With you, a full biological and emotional study. Torn blinked. You mean, study human bonding? Yes, I will spend time with you, talk with you, eat with you, observe your behavior, even during rest cycles. I want to understand. Torn thought for a moment. He didn't trust her reasons completely, but he also saw a chance to change something. Maybe, just maybe, he could show her that humans were more than just strange creatures with feelings. All right, he said. If we both agree on clear boundaries and mutual respect. Velra smiled. Agreed. She turned and walked out of the lab, leaving Torn wondering what he had just agreed to. That night, Velra arrived at the shared rest quarters. Torn had set up a spare bed for her, as there was space for only one person in his usual room. But she walked past it and lay down on his bed instead. What are you doing? Torn asked. K'vari rest close during observation trials, she said. It is efficient, Torn sighed. We're not Kavari. Then teach me, she replied, pulling the blanket over herself. Isn't that what you do? He shook his head and took the spare bed, lying down fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. Velra closed her eyes, curled up comfortably, and whispered into the dark. This is going to be fun. Torn said nothing, but a small smile formed on his lips. The next morning, Torn woke up feeling stiff. The spare bed wasn't made for sleeping. He looked over at his own bed. Velra was still sleeping there. Her silver arms curled around the pillow, her breathing steady and calm. She looked peaceful. Very different from her usual proud and sharp self. Torn quietly stood up, trying not to wake her, and walked to the small sink. As he washed his face, he saw her golden eyes open behind him in the mirror. You get up early, she said, stretching like a cat. It's called a morning routine, he replied, drying his face. Velra sat up. Kavari don't need such routines. We wake when the body is ready. Well, humans like structure, Torn said with a soft smile. Velra stood up and walked past him, completely comfortable. She grabbed a small energy bar from the shelf and took a bite. I've made a list, she said. Chewing. For the bonding study, Torn raised an eyebrow. A list? Yes, we will eat together, work together, walk together, and even speak about feelings. That is what humans do in their bonding, yes? Torn nodded slowly. That's part of it. I will experience each of these steps, then I will decide if this human connection truly means anything. Torn looked at her, unsure whether to laugh or worry. Velra was serious. That day, Velra followed Torn everywhere at the lab. She watched him clean tools and prepare samples. She kept asking questions. Why do humans hum when they work? It helps us focus, Torn answered. Why do you say thank you to machines? It's habit and respect. She wrote it all down in her small silver tablet. But instead of looking bored or annoyed, Velra seemed curious. During lunch, she sat across from him in the dining hall. She tried a human dish, rice with vegetables, and made a face. This is too soft, she said. Kavari food must be chewed with strength. Torn laughed. Not everything needs to be a fight. Even food, she asked. He shook his head. Sometimes comfort is the goal. Velra stared at her plate, then took another bite. She didn't say anything, but she finished the whole meal. Later, they walked through the main corridor. Other crew members stared as they passed. A human and a Kavari walking side by side, talking quietly. It was rare. I've noticed something, Velra said. What is it? Torn asked. You do not treat me like others do. How do others treat you? They act careful, or scared, or cold. You're just normal. I see you as a person, he replied, not just a Kavari. Velra paused. Her steps slowed. That is strange, she said softly. Most Kavari don't even say that to each other. Torn looked at her. Maybe that's the difference. She didn't respond, but something in her expression changed. Not mockery, not pride, but something quieter. That evening, Velra sat at the corner of the rest quarters, brushing her silver hair. Humans talk before sleep, yes? She asked. Sometimes, Torn replied from his bed. About the day, or memories, or dreams. Then tell me a dream, she said. Torn thought for a moment. I once dreamed I was flying. No ship, no suit, just me, in the sky. It felt peaceful. Velra tilted her head. Kavari don't dream like that. We dream of battles, of victory. Do you ever dream of peace? She was quiet. I don't know, she said after a while. Then she asked, why do humans share? Dreams, because it brings people closer, Torn said. It shows a part of them no one else sees. Velra was silent again. Then she lay back in the bed. You are full of strange thoughts, she said. Torn smiled. And you're full of questions. She closed her eyes, but before sleep took her, she whispered, this study may be more difficult than I expected. The days passed, and the strange study continued. Velra laughed once, a small laugh when Torn accidentally spilled tea on himself. She helped him clean it, still smiling. She stopped calling human bonding nonsense during one talk about family. She started sitting closer. She even brought him a Kvari snack one evening and waited to see if he liked it. Torn noticed all of it. He didn't say anything, but he saw the change. Then one evening, while working late in the lab, Velra said something unexpected. "I've added a new phase to the list." Torn looked up. "Another test?" "Yes," she said calmly. "The next part of human bonding." "What part?" She stepped closer. "Touch, physical contact, hand-holding, embrace. Human partners do this, yes?" Torn nodded slowly. "Yes, but usually when there's trust, and when both are ready." Velra raised her hand. "Then take it." Torn looked at her golden eyes, then gently took her hand. It was cool and smooth. They stood there, silent, for a long moment. Velra didn't speak. She didn't pull away. And for the first time, she didn't look like she was mocking anything. Velra didn't let go of Torn's hand right away. She stood still, watching him closely, as if waiting for something to happen. Her expression was calm, but her golden eyes searched his face. "This contact," she said softly, "it feels warm." Torn nodded. "That's what it's meant to be." Velra finally released his hand and turned away. Strange, so simple, yet not unpleasant. Torn smiled slightly but said nothing. The next day, Velra arrived at the lab earlier than usual. She stood beside Torn as he worked, passing him tools without being asked, watching every movement. "You are focused today," Torn said. "I'm always focused," she replied, "more than usual." "I mean," Velra hesitated. "I had a dream." Torn looked up, surprised. "Another battle?" "No," she said. "Not this time." "What was it about?" She looked away. "We were sitting together." "Just sitting." "It was quiet." Torn smiled. "That sounds like peace." Velra didn't answer, but the idea stayed in her mind. Their study continued for days. The list grew longer. They cooked together in the shared kitchen. Velra burned her first pancake but refused to give up. Torn helped her fix the temperature. She pretended not to enjoy it, but the way she finished the serving said otherwise. They walked through the garden area of the station. Velra asked about human flowers and why they grew things they couldn't eat. Torn explained that some things existed just to be beautiful. She said it was a waste of space, but her eyes stayed on the flowers longer than his. They talked about childhood. Torn told her stories about growing up on Earth, about his younger sister, an old cat named Rain. Velra listened quietly, occasionally asking questions. When she spoke about her own past, her voice was lower. "I was trained at 8, combat drills, mental focus, no room for weakness." "That sounds hard." Torn said. "It made me strong," she replied. "But did it make you happy?" Velra didn't answer. Velra stared at the food on her tray. She had picked it up only minutes ago, but now she had no desire to eat. Her stomach felt strange, not painful, just heavy, unsettled. The smell of cooked rice made her wrinkle her nose. "You're not eating," Torn said gently, sitting across from her in the dining hall. "I'm not hungry," she replied. "That's new." Velra nodded slowly. "Yes, I always eat." Torn leaned forward. "Are you feeling sick?" She shook her head. "No fever, no weakness, just strange. Maybe you need to rest," he offered. Velra stood up. "I'll visit the medical unit just to check." Torn nodded. "Do you want me to come?" She paused. Her usual response would have been no, but this time, after a short silence, she said yes. Inside the medical bay, the machine scanned Velra's body. The Kvari doctor, Relin, stood by the screen. His expression was unreadable. Velra sat upright on the examination bed, arms crossed. Torn waited beside the door, quietly. Finally, Relin spoke. "You are carrying life." Velra blinked. "What? You're pregnant," Relin said plainly. "The scan shows early signs. Cells are forming, rapid growth." "It's true." Velra's heart beat faster. "That is impossible. A Kvari and a human cannot. I ran the test twice." The doctor interrupted. "It is happening. This is a hybrid child." Velra turned to Torn. Eyes wide, as if she didn't understand what was happening. Torn stepped closer. It's mine, Relin nodded. There is no other explanation. The DNA confirms it. Silence filled the room. Velra stood up quickly. This must be a mistake. I didn't mean. This was supposed to be a study. Torn looked calm, but his eyes were serious. It wasn't just a study anymore. Not for me. Velra stepped back. Her thoughts were spinning. She had mocked human emotions, laughed at the idea of bonding. And now, she was carrying a child. I need time, she said quietly and walked out of the room. Velra sat quietly in the garden chamber of the space station. Round her, human and alien plants grew side by side. Soft lights glowed in the corners. She didn't see any of it. Her mind was full of confusion. She was pregnant with a human's child. It should have been impossible. Their species were different in so many ways, and yet, the scans were clear. Life was growing inside her, part Kavari, part human, and the father was Torn. She wrapped her arms around her stomach, as if trying to understand what was happening inside her. She wasn't weak. She had trained in combat, faced danger, survived battles. But now she felt fear, a kind she had never known. What would her people say? The next day, Velra stood before the Kavari council room aboard the station. A few Kavari officers sat around a long metal table. Commander Zin, her old friend, stood beside them. The doctor has confirmed it, Zin said coldly. A child, with human blood. Velra stood tall. It's true. Zin frowned. Velra, this is a mistake. You should not have gotten involved. The humans are emotional creatures. They twist the mind. No one twisted my mind, Velra replied. It was my choice. Then it was a foolish one. Zin snapped. The child is unnatural. This union was not meant to happen. We should remove the problem before it spreads. Velra's eyes widened. Remove. It's early. Zin said. The child can be stopped. Quietly. No one needs to know. Velra felt cold all over him. For a second, she didn't speak. Then her voice came, strong and clear. No. Zin narrowed his eyes. Velra, no, she repeated. This child is not a mistake, and I will not allow harm to come to it. Zin stepped forward. Think, Velra. Our people will never accept this. You will lose your honor. You will be treated as a traitor. Velra lifted her head. Then I will stand alone. But I will not destroy something that is a part of me, a part of him. There was silence. Even the council members didn't speak. Velra turned and walked out without waiting for permission. Torn was in the lab when she found him. He looked up, worried. Are you all right? Velra didn't speak at first. She walked to him and stood close, her hands shaking slightly. They want me to end it, she said quietly, to erase this life. Torn's heart sank. What did you say? I said no, Velra replied. Because I realized something. I mocked your ways, your emotions. But now, I feel them. I understand why you value connection, why you protect life. Torn gently placed his hand on her shoulder. You're not alone. Velra met his eyes. I need your help if I stay here. They will pressure me again. I need to go somewhere safe. Torn nodded. Then we leave. With help from Chief Halden, the human station commander, Torn and Velra made a quiet plan. A human cargo ship was heading to a peaceful colony on the edge of known space, a place where rules were lighter and mixed families were not judged. Halden didn't ask many questions. He just nodded and said, take care of each other. That night, under the cover of quiet lights and slow engines, Velra and Torn boarded the transport ship and left the station behind. Life on the colony world of Raylantu was simple. There were forests, rivers, and small human alien villages. Velra and Torn stayed in a small wooden house near the hills. It was peaceful, very different from the cold metal walls of the station. Torn helped Velra settle in. He planted flowers outside. She watched them grow, slowly, day by day. Velra often sat near the window. Velra stood at the window, watching the sun rise slowly over the hills of Raylantu. Soft light touched the trees, and the quiet wind moved the grass gently. Her hand rested on her growing belly. The child inside was now strong. The doctors on the colony had confirmed its health. Every day, she could feel tiny movements. She still remembered the fear she once felt, but it no longer ruled her. Now, a new feeling had taken its place, one she couldn't name, but it made her feel calm and full. Behind her, Torn stirred. He stepped out of their small bedroom and smiled sleepily. "You're awake early. I like the quiet," Velra replied. Torn walked over and stood beside her. "It's been 2 months now," he said. "You've changed." Velra looked at him. "I was trained to ignore emotions, to control everything. But now, I don't want to control this. I want to feel it. I want to protect it." Torn reached out and gently touched her hand. "You're doing that already." The colony life was peaceful, but not without challenges. Velra had never lived in a small wooden home. She had never cooked her own food or washed clothes by hand. She struggled at first, dropping pans, burning bread, spilling water. But Torn never laughed at her. He helped, step by step, and never complained in return. Velra took care of him in her own way. She repaired the roof after a windstorm. She built a fence around the house to keep wild animals out. She even carved a wooden statue of a bird and gave it to him. "It looks strange," Torn said, smiling. "It's a Velari skybird," Velra replied. "It washes over its nest. Then I'll keep it near our window." One evening, a message arrived on Torn's communicator. It was short, just a few words from Chief Halden. "A Kvari ship is on the way. They are looking for her." Velra stood silently after reading it. Her hands closed into fists. "They found us," she said. Torn nodded. "What do you want to do?" Velra took a deep breath. "I don't want to run anymore." "You're sure?" "Yes," she said. "This child is not a shame. It's proof of something greater. If they want to face me, let them." The next day, the Kvari ship landed near the colony. Its silver body shone under the sun, and its engines hummed low and deep. A group of Kvari officers stepped out, dressed in dark blue armor. At the front was Commander Zin. Torn and Velra stood together as the Kvari approached. A small crowd gathered from the colony, humans and aliens alike, curious and worried. Zin stopped a few steps away. His eyes landed on Velra's belly, and he frowned. "So it's true," he said. "You still carry it." "I do." "This child is a mistake," Commander Zin repeated, his voice cold and hard. Velra stood tall in front of him, her hand gently resting on her round belly. The child inside her moved again, as if sensing the tension, but her face showed no fear. "No," Velra replied, her voice steady. "This child is a beginning, not an end. It proves something both our species forgot, that we are not so different." Zin stepped forward. "You disobeyed our traditions. You brought shame to our people." "I brought truth," Velra said. "The truth that connection matters. That strength is not only in the body, but in the heart." Behind her, Torn stood quietly, watching everything. He didn't speak, but he was ready to defend her if needed. The crowd of colonists remained silent too, watching closely. Humans and aliens stood side by side, listening. Zin looked at Torn. "And you? What do you expect?" "That we'll accept this child. That we will open our arms." Torn finally spoke. "I don't expect anything. I only hope, for Velra, for our child, and maybe for a better future." There was a long pause. Then, unexpectedly, someone else stepped forward. It was a Kvari scientist, older than the others. Her eyes wise and calm. "I studied the reports," she said. "The child is strong, healthy. It is both Kvari and human traits. Maybe this is evolution, not failure." Zin turned to her. "You support this. I support what is real," she said. "And this child is real?" Others began murmuring. Some Kvari nodded. A few still looked uncertain. But the silence was broken now. The wall between the two sides had a crack in it. Velra stepped forward. "I did not ask for your praise. I only ask that you let us live in peace." Zin looked at her for a long time, then at the child she carried. Finally, he stepped back. "Very well," he said. "You may stay, but do not expect the whole council to welcome you." "I don't need the council," Velra replied. "I have a family now. Weeks passed. The Kvari ship returned to space, leaving Velra and Torn in peace. Life on the colony returned to normal. Flowers bloomed outside their home. Children played in the fields. And one quiet morning, their child was born, a baby girl. Her skin was a soft silver, like Velra's, but her eyes were blue, just like Torn's. She cried loudly, and when Velra held her for the first time, tears filled her own eyes. "She is perfect," Torn whispered, holding both of them gently. Velra looked at her daughter's face. "She will walk into worlds, and maybe one day she will help bring them together." They named her Lyri, a name that meant hope in both Kvari and human language. The years went by. Lyri grew fast. She was strong like her mother, kind like her father, and full of questions. She climbed trees, chased birds, and asked about stars. She wanted to learn everything about both Kvari and human life. Other families in the colony watched her with wonder. She was the first of her kind, but she was never treated as a mistake. She was a symbol. One day, as Lyri sat on her father's lap, she asked, "Mama used to live in space." Torn smiled. "Yes, she was a great soldier." Velra chuckled. "Now I'm just a great mother." "And you used to fight?" Lyri asked. "I fought many battles," Velra said. "But my hardest one was learning how to love." Lyri tilted her head. "Was Papa your enemy?" Velra smiled and shook her head. "No, he was my lesson." On a quiet night, under the stars, Velra sat beside Torn outside their home. The wind was soft. The stars above sparkled like silver dust. "I once thought humans were weak," she said. "And I once thought Kvari had no feelings," Torn replied. Velra looked at him. "We were both wrong." He smiled. "And that led us here." Velra placed her head on his shoulder. "Do you think others will follow?" "They already are," he said. "More Kvari are asking questions. Some even moved to human colonies." Velra looked up at the sky. "Then maybe our child won't be the only one. She'll be the first of many," Torn said. They sat there in silence, hand in hand, while Lyri slept inside, dreaming of stars and new worlds.